Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're looking at something I think a lot of people are curious about, and that's sustainable fashion. How can you make stylish choices that are also good for the environment?
Yeah, I think for a long time, people felt like those two things were at odds, like you had to choose one or the other,
Exactly.
style or sustainability.
Right. So we really want to dig into this. We've got some great sources for this deep dive, and we really want to explore this idea.
Hmm.
Can you actually look good and also care for the planet when it comes to fashion? Is it possible?
It's a great question. I mean, there are some real concerns about how the fashion industry impacts the environment, like, the sheer amount of stuff that gets produced.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of mind-boggling.
It really is. And then you think about, okay, all those clothes, where do they end up?
Yeah, that's the big question. A lot of it ends up in landfills, which is a huge problem.
And that's not even getting into how those clothes are made in the first place.
Hmm.
The materials, the labor practices.
Absolutely. I mean, fast fashion, it's all about producing things quickly and cheaply, and that often comes at a cost to the environment and the people making the clothes.
Right. And, we have some data in our sources that really drives that home. Like the amount of water and energy that goes into producing clothes, it's significant.
Oh, absolutely. And the carbon emissions, too.
Yeah.
The fashion industry actually accounts for a pretty sizable chunk of global emissions, which I think surprises a lot of people.
Yeah, it's not something you'd necessarily think about, right?
Right.
But, the encouraging thing is it feels like there's a shift happening. Like people are starting to become more aware of these issues.
Yeah, and consumers are starting to demand more sustainable options.
Exactly. And that's where sustainable fashion comes in. Now, it's important to say up front, sustainable fashion is not just some trend, like it's here to stay.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a fundamental shift in how we think about clothes.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just like, oh, buy organic cotton.
Right, it's much bigger than that. It's really about the entire life cycle of a garment.
Yeah,
From how it's made to how long it lasts and what happens to it when you're done with it.
right. And thinking about the people involved at every step of the way.
Absolutely.
So let's break this down a bit. Our sources really point to a few key areas when it comes to sustainable fashion. And one of the big ones is materials. Like, what are our clothes actually made of?
Yeah, and this is where things get really interesting because there are some amazing innovations happening right now.
I know, like mushroom leather. Can you believe that?
Right. Who would have thought?
And they're making fabrics from recycled ocean plastic.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It really is. And it's so important because, conventional materials like cotton, for example, can be really resource intensive to produce.
Yeah, and cotton uses a lot of water
A lot of water.
and pesticides.
Right.
So these alternative materials, they're really promising.
And they're not just limited to these high-tech solutions either. There are also more traditional materials like hemp and bamboo, which are becoming increasingly popular because they're fast-growing and require less water.
Right. It's about finding materials that are gentler on the planet.
Exactly.
Now, another big thing our sources talk about is waste reduction. Focusing on quality over quantity.
Yes. I mean, the fast fashion model, it's just churning out clothes at an incredible rate.
I know. It's like you wear something once and it's already out of style.
Right. And those clothes are often not made to last, which means they end up getting tossed pretty quickly.
And so much of it ends up in landfills.
Mountains of clothes. And it's a shame because it's such a waste of resources.
So the idea with sustainable fashion is, you buy fewer items, but they're higher quality.
Exactly. And they're made to last.
So you can wear them for years.
And some brands are even starting to offer repair services, which I think is fantastic.
Well, that's great. It's like, let's take care of the clothes we have. Okay, so we've got materials, we've got waste reduction. The third big piece, and this one's really important, is ethical labor.
Absolutely. We have to remember that there are real people behind our clothes.
Right, like someone made that shirt you're wearing.
And we need to make sure they're being treated fairly.
Absolutely. For a long time, the fashion industry has had a pretty bad reputation when it comes to labor practices.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there have been a lot of issues with low wages, unsafe working conditions, and even exploitation.
Right, and it's really important to demand transparency from brands
Absolutely. We need to know where our clothes are coming from and how they're being made.
and make sure that the people making them are being paid a living wage and working in safe conditions.
Exactly.
Now, I know some people might be listening to this and thinking, okay, sustainable fashion, it's good for the planet, it's ethical, but is it stylish?
Right. Like, am I going to be stuck wearing burlap sacks?
Exactly. But you know what? Our sources actually address that. They say that this whole idea that sustainable fashion is boring or frumpy, it's just not true anymore.
I think that's one of the most exciting things about this movement. It's like designers are realizing that sustainability can actually be a source of inspiration.
Yeah, it's pushing them to be more creative.
Exactly. And the results are amazing. Like you have brands like Stella McCartney, Patagonia, Reformation. They're all creating really stylish, cutting-edge designs.
Yeah, and they're using innovative materials and techniques. So, you can absolutely be fashionable and sustainable.
And I think that's a really important message to get across.
So for our listeners who are, maybe thinking, okay, I want to start incorporating more sustainable fashion into my life, where do I start?
Well, one of the best things you can do is embrace what's called slow fashion.
Yeah, slow fashion. It's kind of the opposite of fast fashion.
Exactly. It's about buying fewer items, but choosing pieces that are high quality and that you really love.
And that you'll wear for a long time.
Right. And, another great way to be more sustainable is to shop secondhand.
Oh, yeah. I love thrifting.
It's so much fun, and you can find some amazing pieces.
I know, and it's so much better for the environment than buying new all the time.
Absolutely. You're giving clothes a second life.
Right, and our sources also talk about upcycling, which is basically taking old clothes and giving them a new lease on life.
Yeah, like if you have a shirt that doesn't fit anymore, you can turn it into a tote bag or something.
Or you can get creative with patching and embroidery.
There are so many possibilities.
It's like DIY fashion.
Exactly.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive here, it's clear that sustainable fashion, it's not just a trend, it's a movement.
It really is. And I think it's a movement that's here to stay.
And it's being driven by consumers. People are demanding change.
And brands are starting to listen.
So, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, okay, I want to be a part of this, what can I do?
Well, as we've talked about, there are a lot of things you can do. You can start by being more mindful about the clothes you buy.
Choose quality over quantity.
Think about the materials.
Consider the labor practices.
And, don't be afraid to experiment with secondhand shopping and upcycling.
You can have fun with it.
Absolutely.
And remember, you don't have to do everything perfectly. Just start making small changes.
Every little bit helps.
So, I hope this deep dive has been helpful. And as you go about your day, think about, one small change you can make.
Maybe it's buying one sustainably made item the next time you need something new.
Or checking out that thrift store down the street.
Or trying to upcycle an old t-shirt.
Whatever it is, your choices matter.
They really do.
And together, we can make a difference. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next time.